your home for sports. Guaranteed human. Make us the #1 preset in your car and on the free new and improved iHeartRadio app. This is the starting lineup. Here's your host, Karl Schoening.
Welcome into the starting lineup. I'm Karl Schoening, starting at your host and the voice coming through your speakers. LG is in the starting lineup with me as our technical director. Julius Randle is on the move. Oklahoma wins the College World Series, and we have drama brewing in Boston. Oh yeah, the NBA draft is tonight too, but the biggest sports news in the world is where we start, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, the Greek freak, is traded to the Miami Heat for Tyler Herro, Kel'el Ware, Jaime Jaquez Jr., Kasparas Jakučionis, 3 first-round picks, including the 13th pick in tonight's NBA draft, a pick swap, and 1 second-round pick, according to Shams Charania of ESPN. This trade has been agreed to. It is a one team making a deal with one team trade at the moment. However, we are going to have this deal finalized on July 6th, so that still leaves plenty of opportunity for some of these pieces to be shuffled around the rest of the league, and it is something that finally ends the Giannis in Milwaukee saga. I think we live in this era where you have these NBA trade big names that you're just expecting to happen, and Giannis felt like it probably was going on 13 months too long. We were probably expecting the Giannis trade maybe 24 to 18 months ago, and finally happens now. And of the, I guess, potential moves that the Milwaukee Bucks could have made to get something back for Giannis Antetokounmpo, there were 2 rumors out there that Shams Charania pretty much said were factual yesterday, that Giannis is either going to Milwaukee for several pieces, which is what eventually happened, or he's going to Boston for Jaylen Brown and multiple first-round picks. And it seems like the hang-up may or may not have been perhaps another young piece or 2. Probably not. Hugo Gonzalez, Baylor Shireman, not necessarily players that were going to move the needle one way or another. In fact, something that was reported by Kevin O'Connor of Yahoo Sports was that Jimmy Haslam, who is also the owner of the Cleveland Browns, was not interested in trading for Jaylen Brown, who has plenty of time left on his contract, is 29 years old, because he expected Brown to perhaps be disgruntled in Milwaukee and want to trade, and this would be an ownership that would have to have dealt with the Cleveland Browns dealing with a Myles Garrett trade demand, followed by a trade saga with Giannis Antetokounmpo, who I suppose we never really knew if he made a trade demand, but he certainly didn't sign an extension that Milwaukee thought would keep him around long enough to be a member of the team. And then have to deal with Jaylen Brown, who, while he is locked up under contract for the next 3 years, is somebody who is 29 years old, and by the time the dust cleared on any trade for Giannis to Boston, you'd pretty much be talking about Jaylen Brown and a bunch of spare parts that don't necessarily fit around him, and he would have probably wanted out eventually as well. In this particular case, the Miami Heat send their best player in the deal as Tyler Herro, who is actually from the Milwaukee area. So there's a chance, even though he has 1 year left on his contract, he's either flipped for additional pieces or he becomes Milwaukee's guy and he puts up 30 shots a night. Kel'el Ware, a guy who, so his name is Kel'el, Kel'el. That is a ode. His parents wanted him to be a Kryptonian. For those of you that are nerdy like me, Kal-El is the Kryptonian name of Superman, a.k.a. Clark Kent.
Son of Jor-El and Laura.
Yeah, the House of El, if you will. You know, so
I don't know how Laura got mixed in there, but that's okay.
I'm not sure either, but Kel'el Ware is a solid piece. Jaime Jaquez is a popular player here in San Antonio, as he's Mexican-American, and he's a solid player that you probably can move enough. Kasparas Jakučionis is decent. But then the 3 first-round picks, including the 13th pick in tonight, set up the Bucks to have the 10th and the 13th pick. And this is a good draft to have multiple swings at, and especially if you're rebuilding, you might even be able to move that 13th pick in a trade back scenario to get another future piece. You could see somebody like maybe the Spurs saying, hey, now that you have that 13th overall pick, Milwaukee, it gets a little interesting here because as I was explaining yesterday, since no trades were made in the first round, 24 hours out from the draft at 7:30, if you will. 7 o'clock is when tonight right here on these airwaves, Dylan Emery, Shane Carter, and myself will be at the Rock at La Cantera. From 7 to 10 tonight, we will have your draft coverage. The first pick is on the clock for the Washington Wizards at 7:30. So just to kind of make everybody a little more confused, and LG, correct me if I'm saying this wrong in any way, it'll be the Miami Heat who will select the 13th overall pick for the Milwaukee Bucks. The Bucks can make a subsequent trade. Let's just throw out a name, any team. How about the Spurs? The Spurs want to trade up to 13, get into the lottery. There's several teams that are always trying to get into the lottery. There's always conversations about moving up and down. Not all of them ever really come into fruition. Should the Bucks, in principle, trade that 13th overall pick to, well, let's just say the Spurs, the Spurs would be playing a game of telephone with Milwaukee to Miami. Miami will draft for the Bucks for the Spurs at that 13th overall pick. And I need to reiterate now that I've said this out loud, and you might just be getting in your car and tuning in, that this is just a hypothetical. The Spurs are drafting 20th tonight, but now the Milwaukee Bucks are going to be making the selection at 13 as a part of this Giannis Antetokounmpo trade, but the actual pick will have to be phoned in by the Miami Heat. And, what does this do for Miami? Well, according to the article written by Shams Charania, the Heat's title odds went from 30-1, the 9th shortest on Monday, to 18-1, the 5th shortest at the DraftKings Sportsbook. And, it's okay. I don't necessarily think that this is going to be a regular season team. Bobby Portis is also in the trade with Giannis, so you have a really solid front court in Miami and Bam Adebayo, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bobby Portis. But it's about it. There's not much shooting on that roster. You don't really have a star perimeter player at all. You're going to be reliant on Bam and Giannis to do a lot of the work, a lot of the season. Those are two players with a lot of mileage on their legs. And there's other teams that need to make moves. So there's plenty of offseason left. I am very interested to see how the Bucks, we'll see what the Bucks do for sure, but I'm really interested to see how Miami will build around Giannis and Bam this offseason. They'll definitely sign Giannis to an extension. I'm sure that's part of it. But the real thing that comes down to it is, does this really make Miami a contender? Maybe they get home court advantage in the first round, but are they better than the Knicks? They'll give the Knicks trouble in the playoffs, being the big front court that they are. They are probably not better than the Pacers, who I suspect to be back if Tyrese Halliburton is returning to his MVP caliber level. Are they better than the Celtics with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown? Probably, maybe. That's a whole nother conversation we'll have a little bit later in the show. Is Jaylen Brown was dangled out in these conversations, and it got very public. I believe he's in China right now doing his whole Twitch stream, and earlier in the week, Jaylen Brown probably knew that there was a chance he could go to Milwaukee, and he sort of, I guess, got ahead of that by saying that he would sign for $400 million in China. And that seems like something that China would probably actually figure out a way to string together $400 million to bring Jaylen Brown to play for the Chinese Basketball League. He was asked in his stream, how many points would he average for the Shanghai Sharks? And Jaylen Brown basically proceeded to say that he loves the country of China and he would literally play for every single team in the same season. So I don't necessarily think that there's any chance of Jaylen Brown going to China, but I do think that there is a interesting conversation to be had about if Jaylen Brown is somebody who's going to perhaps be on the move to another team because the Celtics don't want to deal with that fractured relationship, fracturing their locker room. So that's something else to think about. But when it comes to the Bucks, they finally move on, and they will just be sort of irrelevant for a little while. They are not going to be in any conversations, at least as long as there was Giannis on the team, there was some interest. But the Bucks are now back to basketball irrelevancy. We're probably not going to talk much about the Milwaukee Bucks the rest of the way. As good for them. They finally get their trade. Seems like they got a decent haul for a guy on the last year of his contract. Seemed like there were only two bidding teams that really made big pushes in Miami and Boston. And they decided to go with the lesser of the headaches and the possible more assets to be flipped out of the deal with Miami. So congratulations to Pat Riley. He's always a big game hunter. And I think in this particular case, he was actually squeezed a little bit and gave up pretty much all of their draft capital asset. But Giannis will probably sign he is eligible on January 6th to sign an extension to 4-year, $275 million. And there's a chance that he does something along those lines. Giannis's 13 seasons in Milwaukee come to a close, and he gets to be in Miami. And sometimes I think we forget about the people. Something about Giannis felt like he was ready to go to Miami. He is in his 30s. He's a multimillionaire. He doesn't leave money on the table. So he is certainly somebody who's going to have a lot of fun in Miami. I would imagine Giannis Antetokounmpo will probably sign with the Miami Heat. One of the Antetokounmpo brothers, if not. But yeah, just finally the end of a saga, and maybe, unfortunately for Miami, they're getting Giannis a little too late. 2-3 years ago would have been great. Have several other pieces around. Now it's just Bam Adebayo and Giannis and not much shooting. There's still plenty of work to be done on that Miami roster. But I do always say the team that gets the best player usually wins the trade. In this particular case, it seems like the Miami Heat start the offseason off with a bang, that's for sure. There were other trades made last night as well. Julius Randle being the big piece of a 3-team trade. They also extended one of their guards. We'll talk a little bit about that. Of course, we got to talk the draft tonight, preview the draft. A little surprised we haven't gotten too much further into the show without talking about the draft and other things happening in the world of sports. The college season is officially done as of last night. Tell you how that one wrapped up as well on the starting lineup on Ticket 760.
Uber and Lyft drivers. Driverless cars are coming. Will drivers be replaced, or will drivers own what comes next? Fair Co-op helps drivers earn up to 90% and gives out 25% of net profits from each ride for referrals. For life. Be a leader, the first in your city. Help build the movement. The drivers who lead now can help shape the next generation of rideshare. Fair Co-op, official partner of iHeartRadio. Download the app now at fair.coop/iHeart. That's FARE.coop/iHeart.
Kohl's Deal Days are right on time. Summer arrives and suddenly you need shorts that fit, flip-flops that survive the pool deck, a bath towel that isn't secretly your beach towel. Get up to 50% off at Kohl's and Kohls.com, plus daily deals, free shipping, and instant Kohl's Cash. Now the only thing left on your list is having fun. Select styles, exclusions apply. No purchase necessary to get instant Kohl's Cash. While supplies last. Ends June 28th. See store or Kohls.com for details.
On! Plus Nicotine Pouches present Comfort Chronicles. A 10 o'clock tea time. How comfortable. You show up in stretchy shorts, a breathable tee, and maybe no socks.
Let the dogs breathe.
While others sweat in pleated khakis, you're in your comfort zone bombing drives. And in your pocket, On! Plus Nicotine Pouches. The softest pouch on the planet. Buy a can at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
If you run a business and need to get your message to your next customers fast, nothing is faster than audio with iHeart. Let us help you grow your business at the speed of sound today at 844-844-iHeart.
Trouble sleeping lately? Upgrade to the great sleep you deserve at Mattress Firm's July 4th sale. Choose from a curated selection of top brands and let their sleep experts help you narrow it down. They make sleep easy.
There's a new and exciting way to start your journey toward a more joyful existence. Listen to Joy 101 with Hoda Kotb on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi there, I'm John O'Hurley. You know, our pets are beloved family members. But sadly, though, there are so many dogs that get euthanized every day due to the lack of funding. To give them a chance at adoption, I invite you to support Puppy Food Bank. Thanks to generous donors like you, all of the food sent to pet shelters from Puppy Food Bank never comes with a bill. So please go to puppyfoodbank.org and make a generous, caring $15 donation every month. Your donation will absolutely save pet lives.
The Kia Summer Sticker Sales event is on, and that means hot deals on wheels at World Car Kia. Like 0% financing on 2026 Kia Sportages and 0% on Serenos too. And if you have a trade, now's the time to trade up. Plus, everyone gets a lifetime warranty and lifetime roadside assistance at World Car Kia. Visit any of our stores in San Antonio, New Braunfels, and save. Kia. World Car Kia. World Car for a lifetime.
With approved credit through KMF.
Everyone sees me as a football player, but before anything else, I'm human. I'm Javier El Chicharito Hernandez, and every single day I'm still learning how to live with problems, mistakes, ever since I was born. This isn't a normal podcast. Everything here is spontaneous, real, and genuine. Just honest conversations about what it means to be alive. I'm Javier El Chicharito Hernandez, and this is Learning to be Human. Open your free iHeartRadio app, search Learning to be Human, and listen now.
You guys just didn't want it bad enough. That should have been an easy win. What were you doing out there? You gotta hustle. You could have made that play if you'd been open.
On the car ride home after the game, when you think you're helping by telling me what I did wrong and what I need to work on, all I hear is that I'm not good enough, that I'm supposed to be perfect, that it's not okay to lose. On the car ride home, all I need to hear is how much you love me and enjoy watching me play. That my worth isn't determined by my performance. That even on my worst day, I am worthy. That you see me learning, growing, and doing my best. And that is enough.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Washington Secondary School Athletic Administrators Association.
He bleeds silver and black. Back to Karl Schoening in the starting lineup.
Yes, sir. Starting lineup on Ticket 760. I'm your host, Karl Schoening. Spurs will draft 20th this evening as it is projected. Plenty of time for moves and shakeups, but at the moment it looks like everybody is going to be in their spots except for the Milwaukee Bucks, who are now drafting both 10th with their own pick and 13th with the Miami pick as part of the Giannis trade. That could shake things up. Another thing that could be interesting and shake things up is last night, right before the Giannis trade went down, the Minnesota Timberwolves traded Julius Randle to the Brooklyn Nets as part of a 3-team trade where Chicago also picks up Nick Claxton from the Nets. Several picks involved, Randle and the 28th pick in tonight's draft, so I should have probably mentioned that will go to Brooklyn, which will send its 33rd pick to Minnesota. Total salary cost cutting move here. Julius Randle averaged, 21, 7, and 5 or something like that for the Minnesota Timberwolves this past season. So there's something in the NBA called a trade exception. So when you send out somebody and you don't get anything in return, or you get less than equal value in terms of the contract numbers, you get this thing called a trade exception created. So with no player coming back to Minnesota, the entirety of the Julius Randle salary, around $33 million, you can pretty much just make a trade straight up for another $30 million player. Just for an example, right now, Tyler Herro is somebody who potentially could be on the move again from Milwaukee after being traded from Miami. Theoretically, I believe that math works out really well where Randle's trade exception created could just slide in a player like that. But in this particular case, this is a new ownership group led by A-Rod. That's something that I believe could come into play is just this is a penny pinching move. Dante DiVincenzo is out with that torn Achilles, probably the majority, if not all, of next year. And the Timberwolves subsequently signed Ayo Dosunmu to a 5-year, $112 million deal. So this move really only makes up a $15 million opened up for the mid-level trade exception, gets the Timberwolves in a much better financial state. So I would think, and it also eliminates the guaranteed money they have to give up for 28. The thing that makes this a little interesting potentially for the Spurs is Nick Claxton going to Chicago might mean that the Bulls are not looking to go big at all around 15. There was some thought process that this draft was all about bolstering the front court for the Chicago Bulls, and now it seems like the Bulls are probably going to go wing or guard maybe at 15. Maybe they continue to bolster up their front court. They have plenty of space to add size, but that does change up maybe what the the Chicago Bulls are going to do at 15 with Nick Claxton now being moved from the Brooklyn Nets to the Chicago Bulls, and no players coming back in return for Julius Randle. So, Julius Randle, I guess he's, if you guys remember, was disappointing in this playoffs against the Spurs. He had one good game in game one, which Minnesota won, and the Spurs proceeded to win that series in 6, and part of the conversation was Julius Randle just wasn't playing to what they went up to. So now that Giannis is off of the trading block and probably going to sign an extension in Miami, probably going to more or less finish his career in Miami, everybody's eyes, the vultures of the NBA front offices, are probably looking to see when Anthony Edwards might be on the move. And the thing about Anthony Edwards being on the move, if you're a Spurs fan, is if y'all remember a couple of years ago, the Spurs had the 8th overall pick and they drafted Rob Dillingham for the Minnesota Timberwolves, who proceeded to never really play Dillingham and then moved off of him this past season. The Spurs got, I believe, the 30th pick, the 2030 pick for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and a pick swap in that. It was a good haul for the 8th overall pick, and it ended up being a bust of a move for the Timberwolves. So now, in the not too distant future, Anthony Edwards could be traded, and the value of those assets coming back to San Antonio from the Rob Dillingham / 8th overall pick in, 2024 draft, the same year the Spurs drafted Steph Castle 4th overall, they had that 8th overall pick, and now all of a sudden, if Anthony Edwards is on his way out of Minnesota and they look like they're in a full rebuild, the Spurs get a very valuable asset to either hang on to or help them get a trade completed. And, that's all speculation that goes down the future. But I'm sure Anthony Edwards probably is going to, with very much interest, see how the Timberwolves follow up, signing Ayo Dosunmu to a 5-year deal, as well as trading Julius Randle. There are still plenty of opportunities for that Randle contract to turn into something else in that trade exception. Whether or not that happens remain to be seen. So, some interesting movement there on the Timberwolves side of things, where I imagine they have to consider that Dante DiVincenzo not being in the rotation, and those two players that they sort of took care of by moving off of Julius Randle and securing Ayo Dosunmu, make them, I don't know how to put them in the Western Conference shuffle, but they are certainly somewhere in there where I think you can say they're behind the Spurs. So how does that affect, I guess, overall tonight's draft, right? Now you have to assume, and you probably assumed this already if you've been listening to the show, Brooklyn's just going to draft the best player available at 6. They have the 6th overall pick tonight. There's a lot of conversation about them wanting Arkansas's Darius Acuff. Acuff projected to be available at 6. There's conversations of the Clippers happily trading back to more or less hold Acuff hostage for the highest bidder. So there's conversations of the Clippers drafting Acuff just to eventually move back and in the draft and give Acuff to whoever wants to give up assets to get him. And they're not necessarily mad if they draft Acuff and they do not get any trade offers, because Acuff will actually kind of fit somewhat what the Clippers need. The Clippers, I'm sure that they are heavy on the phones right now trying to see if they can get Jaylen Brown from Boston. And the 5th overall pick is not bad starting measures to do so. Do the Celtics trade for Kawhi Leonard in this situation? Jaylen Brown for Kawhi Leonard? That's something that's kind of crossed my mind, because there's this weird relationship with Jaylen Brown and the Celtics right now. He's a Cal guy. You could send Jaylen Brown to the Clippers, and Kawhi Leonard, who's on the last year of his contract, in his mid-30s now, it makes a little bit of sense to maybe move him to Boston. However, you want a really good package, so would Kawhi in the 5th overall pick get you Jaylen Brown? I think so. I think that's a fair move for both teams. Does it happen? It would have to happen in the next several hours. So I don't necessarily know what's going on there. But there is just plenty of shakeup that could be happening in the show, and that's during the show. So looking forward to all of that as we have plenty of talks and conversations about the NBA draft that'll be happening in the second hour. But yeah, certainly an interesting move there for the Brooklyn Nets, who now pair Julius Randle with Michael Porter Jr. And as I mentioned, last year the Nets had 5 first-round picks, and none of them were on the all-rookie team. So they are still very much looking for their star. They get a kinda star and 3-time All-Star forward Julius Randle. If you're the Nets, you hope that you can turn things around, and I don't necessarily know if this is more of a move to eventually flip Randle for other pieces, and they maybe eventually flip Michael Porter Jr. for other pieces, and they hope that they just hit on some of these draft picks that they have selected. But two teams that are going in very interesting directions in the Brooklyn Nets and the Minnesota Timberwolves, shaking things up, and the Chicago Bulls, they just sort of finally hit acceptance on a rebuild and traded a whole bunch of players at the trade deadline. This is a good move for them to bolster up their front court. There was that joke that they had nothing but guards there at the trade deadline, and once they add Caleb Wilson to the 4th overall pick, to Nick Claxton, Matas Buzelis, they will have plenty of front court players to take into next season, and Chicago could be an interesting watch. They certainly will have a lot of fun players. Talk a little bit more about all of the implications from the moves that happened in the NBA yesterday, but we shift gears, talk about some other miscellaneous notes before we make it all draft talk in hour number 2. Stay with us here. Draft day on Ticket 760.
Pickleball is on the rise. 46.8 million players nationwide, with a projected $5 billion industry by 2033. Looking to be part of this exciting growth? Crush Yard offers a unique franchise opportunity, redefining the pickleball experience with indoor court, exceptional dining, craft drinks, and entertainment. This is your chance to invest in a rapidly growing brand shaping the future of leisure. For a limited time, you can own a piece of the action. Visit CrushYardFranchising.com to learn more. Crush Yard, Pickleball Bar and Lounge.
It didn't matter to me what type of car it was. It mattered that it was a Soul.
It's really one of those places that shines bright because of the people who they have working for them.
They know me so well. Best vehicle, best customer service.
We all like to think we're special, and they just do that for me.
But the reality is they do that for everyone.
A Sewell will always be in my driveway.
Experience the Sewell difference for yourself at Mercedes-Benz of Selma, now a Sewell company.
For more information about contests on this station, go to ticket760.com/rules.
Joe Fallon did something smart. He saved hundreds on auto insurance switching to Progressive. With that money, he commissioned a portrait of himself. Does Joe already know what he looks like? Yes. Do guests know what he looks like? Also yes. But not as art. It's Joe's savings, and if he wants to spend it on a velvet painting of himself with a white tiger at his feet, we say, roar, Joe, roar. Switch and see if you could save with Progressive and treat yourself. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates.
Please be advised, you may want to stop eating the following foods immediately: broccoli, kale, blueberries, quinoa, spinach.
I thought those were good for me.
What's healthy for one person may cause inflammation for another. So how do you know what your body actually needs? That's where Viome comes in. Viome is a simple at-home gut health test that analyzes your real-time biology to give you personalized nutrition guidance and custom supplements. Learn more at Viome.com/gut. V as in Victor, IOME.com/GUT. And use coupon code GUTHEALTH50 to save $50 off your purchase.
iHeartRadio FIFA World Cup Update.
The U.S. will close the group stage against Turkey in just 2 days. Coach Mauricio Pochettino says his team isn't letting early success get to their heads.
To push into to be better and better every day is not to be relaxed.
The Stars and Stripes hit the pitch in Los Angeles Thursday night. The Americans have already clinched a spot in the knockout round of 32, which starts July 1st.
For live Fox coverage, search World Cup now on the free iHeartRadio app.
Download the Polymarket app to check the latest tournament odds. Think you know the winners? Download the Polymarket app and use code GOALIE for $50 free for your first trade. Trading not available in all jurisdictions. Restrictions and eligibility apply. That's code GOALIE.
Hey America, we need to have a little talk. I don't know if you've noticed, but we got a lot of food in this country. A lot of peaches, a lot of corn, a lot of apples, a lot of everything. We've got so much food that we can't even eat it all. So if we got all this extra food, how are 17 million kids in America struggling with hunger? I just don't get it. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks gathers surplus food and gets it to the hungry kids who need it. They can get you food even if you live in Idaho or Alaska or somewhere crazy like that. This isn't complicated. We got extra food and we've got hungry kids. Feeding America's done the math. Now it's your turn. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org. I know you got internet on your phone, so what are you waiting for? We can't do it without your help. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
The takes are hot, even before the sun comes out. Back to the starting lineup.
Starting lineup on Ticket 760. I'm your host, Karl Schoening. You can reach out to me on X and Instagram at OnAirKarl. DJ LG210 is how you can get in touch with LG. He is that handle on all of the reasonable social medias at DJ LG210. LG, how else can people get involved in the show?
Well, you could jump into the chat right now. We are live streaming on YouTube at Starting Lineup Live. Zeb Utron's already in here. He says, live stream is back, baby. Yes, sir. We are back today because there was a blockbuster trade on the NBA, and we decided to come on the air live for you guys. You can also follow us on Twitter, TSL760. We are also on Instagram and Facebook, Starting Lineup Live on both of those social media platforms. Jason Elizondo's in here, says, welcome back to YouTube. Okay, I guess people missed us on YouTube, apparently, because yeah, we've been doing a little audio, radio, live on Ticket 760 only for a little bit. But yeah, we're going to jump on YouTube from time to time when it matters.
Might even live stream tonight, so be sure to hit that like and subscribe button as Dylan Emery, Shane Carter, and I will be out at the Rocket Lock and Terra for the official Spurs watch party. We will be on these airwaves breaking down the NBA draft. It is like Christmas to me, and expect hour number 2 to be very heavy on the draft talk, which is why I want to start here with some non-NBA stuff just to get these out of the way because they deserve interest and credit as well. We need to get rid of the preseason polls in this NIL world where you're talking about all of these guys that shuffle around and you never know which teams are going to be good. The Oklahoma Sooners last night were picked 14th in the 16-team Southeastern Conference, the SEC, in the preseason poll, finished 11th, and entered the postseason having lost 7 of 9 games. And the path to Omaha for the Sooners was they beat the number 2 national seed in Georgia Tech twice on the road in the regionals and swept the Kansas Jayhawks in the super regionals to get to the finals, where they beat number 3 Georgia twice. And then last night they defeated North Carolina 13-2 to claim the final NCAA event that at least I care about in the Men's College World Series last night. And their first national championship since 1994 for their baseball program. So congratulations to the Oklahoma Sooners. LG, I was wrong. I was hoping last night would be a fun, competitive game. I remember it's on a little bit after, I think it was a little after 8, and it was already 7-1. And I decided I was going to check back a little bit later. 13-2 final score. North Carolina took game 1. Oklahoma forced game 3 on Sunday night, and the college season is now wrapped up. So good for the Sooners. Some in World Cup notes. Lionel Messi last night became the men's World Cup all-time leading goal scorer with 18. Manu Ginobili was in the attendance as well, so that was cool. Yes, you were ready for that drop, weren't you? As I think we're always ready for a Manu Ginobili drop, but Argentina defeated Austria yesterday 2-0. And, yeah, that was cool to see. Manu was in attendance, as Manu said that he treated the team. France defeated Iraq 3-0. Manu treated his family, I should say. France defeaed Iraq 3-0. Norway edged out Senegal 3-2. And Algeria defeated Jordan 2-1 in yesterday's World Cup games. But, yeah, the big story, obviously, Lionel Messi setting record with 2 goals. He had his 17th and his 18th, and I think that's great for the defending champion Argentina. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next for Argentina here as they continue to move forward through Group J play, and will be a team to knock out in the knockout round. Lionel Messi, I'm happy that he's playing. I know that there was some questions as he gets into his older years. He's 38 right now, whether or not he was going to be playing in this year's World Cup. Very happy that he is playing in this World Cup, because it just makes the world of soccer more excited about soccer. Not that the world of football needed much help in that regard. A couple other notes here is I kind of think that you sort of need to think about the Giannis trade that's coming up here, officially going to be made July 6th. The big thing about the Giannis trade as he goes to Miami is to remember that it right now, as constructed, has been agreed upon where Bobby Portis, Giannis Antetokounmpo are going to Miami. Heat are sending a whole bunch of players, 3 first-round picks, including the 13th pick tonight, to Milwaukee. Similar thing happened last year with Kevin Durant, where the Rockets and the Suns decided they were just going to agree to the trade and let it shake out how it may shake out. That ended up being a 7-team trade. So we'll see if there's more to be tacked on to this Giannis trade. That would just be all speculation. However, very much an interesting part of the story, as Giannis is now going to Miami to play with Bam Adebayo, and I would imagine other players are going to be interested in going to Miami. Something I saw the other day, I believe it was Brian Windhorst, maybe it was Michael C. Wright. I'm now starting to get all of these writers confused as I'm just consuming all of this NBA knowledge. Because the Spurs were so far ahead of schedule this year, they're also expected to maybe get some players that are just interested in playing with Victor Wembanyama this summer. So you're going to be seeing some maybe discounted deals for perhaps the Spurs, perhaps the Miami Heat, players just trying to get on with these contending teams. Who these players are, I don't know, but Keith Smart over at Sports Tech had a pretty good article about where the Spurs can go this offseason. They will have $15 million in their non-taxpayer MLE. There's plenty of moves to be made, and I would love it if the Spurs could somehow turn that $15 million into say, Kristaps Porzingis to pair up against the front lines of the NBA. Porzingis would probably be exactly what the Spurs needed. Does he jump into the starting lineup? I would suppose so, and I'm not talking about the show. That would be a very big move, but that's not something that will happen until after the draft tonight. So we'll step aside. When we come back, we will get into just a little toe tap of the water on the NBA draft tonight, and then the entire second hour, just buckle up. It'll be a lot of draft talk, and hey, maybe some breaking news in the NBA. I get the feeling we're going to have a few pieces of breaking news a little bit later on today, if not in the show. So hopefully that happens because it makes for good live radio. Keep tuned in here. Ticket 760. This is the starting lineup. Whether you're focused on your family or building your business, you want to know your assets are secure. Hey y'all, Karl Schoening here, and I want to tell you about how Ledger helps you take full control of your crypto and digital identity. Ledger hardware wallets protect your crypto offline, and the Ledger app lets you manage, buy, and trade Bitcoin and thousands of other digital assets easily. Stay ready, stay protected, stay in control. Learn how to secure your crypto and enter for a chance to win an official Spurs jersey at ledger.com/Spurs. That's ledger.com/Spurs.
Got a DWI? Don't wait. What you do next matters. Not all classes are accepted by Texas courts. Before you pay, make sure it's state approved and live. Alamo Center has helped Texans for over 30 years complete their court-ordered DWI and drug education classes live and instructor-led. No pre-recorded videos. Real instructors, real support. Classes fill up fast. Secure your spot today. Speak to a live person now. Call 210-824-5537 or visit alamocenter.org. Alamo Center. The road back starts here.
Lighting has a bigger impact on your home than you might think. I'm George Salinas with Absolute Power Electrical Contractors. From sleek recessed lighting to modern LED upgrades, we transform your home's interior into something brighter, safer, and more energy efficient. We install lighting that fits how you live today. Call 210-904-1521 or visit absolute-pwr.com to schedule your free estimate. Absolute Power Electrical Contractors, at your service.
Academy Sports and Outdoors doesn't sell meat. We do sell the things that make meat meat. Grills that make steak sizzle, smokers that melt brisket, and chairs that make you say, let's sit and eat meat. The shade you're under, spice you're tasting, a shirt you're wearing, that's us. Chairs, cherry wood and charcoal, yes, yes, yes. Corned beef, no. Cornhole, yes. Canopies, yep. Canapes, I don't know what that is. Meat, no. Everything else you need to celebrate 250 years of America, yes. Academy, fun can't lose.
On Plus Nicotine Pouches present Comfort Chronicles. A 10 o'clock tea time. How comfortable. You show up in stretchy shorts, a breathable tee, and maybe no socks.
Let the dogs breathe.
While others sweat in pleated khakis, you're in your comfort zone bombing drives. And in your pocket, On Plus Nicotine Pouches. The softest pouch on the planet. Buy a can at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
It's the Marketer's Report. In this edition, Giovanni Martinez, Senior Director of Marketing and Innovation for Avocados from Mexico, weighs in on reach, frequency, and audio.
After researching and discussing with the team, we know that how powerful is audio. I mean, audio can really transmit emotions, and that's what we want. My company is so focused on performance. Every single thing we do, we measure it. So performance is key internally for the marketing team, and audio help us to do that, right? Because with the frequency, the reach that you can generate with that component is something that we always have as an add-on in our campaigns.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia connects marketers to all the audiences, live conversations, trusted influencers, and the insights and data you need to grow, and all guaranteed human. If you're a marketer, Go to iHeartAdvertising.com.
iHeart is America's #1 podcast network. Open the free iHeart app and explore podcasts like this.
So, Matt, you write a newsletter. It's called Money Stuff.
People frequently say to me, I enjoy your newsletter, but I'd like to hear you say it into my ear. And I say, that would take a long time. But what we could do instead is I could chat about my newsletter with my good friend Katie.
When it comes to money stuff, you write about a range of topics. What range of topics might we expect in the podcast version?
A smaller range.
Right. We only have 30 minutes.
And in that time, we will talk about weird stories from the world of finance that somehow illuminate or say something interesting about how finance works. Like money stuff.
All the money stuff.
All the stuff.
Yeah. We will be talking about ETFs, the world of investing. That's what I like to talk about. We'll probably talk about horses and dressage a fair amount, I would say.
Horses and dressage will come up more here than they do in the Money Stuff newsletter. And, we'll talk to people, maybe we'll have some guests on, and we'll answer some reader questions if you have any. I'm Matt Levine, the Money Stuff columnist at Bloomberg Opinion.
And I'm Katie Greifeld. I'm a reporter and an anchor with Bloomberg News.
Listen on America's #1 podcast network, iHeart. Open your free iHeart app and listen now.
No B team here. This is the starting lineup with Karl Schoening.
Draft day on the starting lineup. I'm Karl Schoening, starting at your host. In the starting lineup with me is LG. LG, people can help support this show by buying us a coffee. I certainly run off of caffeine no matter what time of the day it is. And we got somebody who bought us coffee?
Yes, exactly. Jess Vixen here, and he says, shout out to the starting lineup show. Bought us 2 coffees. We appreciate that, Jess Vic. And you can join in on the tipping action by going to buymeacoffee.com/the starting lineup. We appreciate all your donations. And Carl's going to use that money to buy some breakfast tacos. We actually, we had some Buy Me a Sushis the last few weeks because Chris Silva bought us some lunch the other day.
Yeah, appreciate it.
We hit up a revolving sushi bar. Interesting concept if you've never done that.
I had never done it, and I've obviously seen it, and I appreciated it because I had not eaten yet. It was like a 2 or 3. I think we met up at 3 o'clock the other day on Friday or Saturday, whatever. I believe it was Friday now that I think about it. And I had not eaten yet, and I'd never been to a revolving sushi bar, and you pointed out that it was happy hour, and the way they had it set up was all of their plates were $3 on the revolving conveyor belt that when you sit down, you can just grab it off the conveyor belt. And it was solid. I thought that was some pretty solid food. And the thing I liked about it was since I was hungry, as soon as we sat down, I was just able to grab what looked appealing. And there were several appealing options. And I would say 10 minutes into sitting down, I had already had 3 plates, and I felt very, satisfied.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Yeah, that was a really good meal, and I will definitely be hitting up sushi conveyor belts again because I appreciate that sort of. It's not like a buffet style, but I like the creativity, and I appreciate just the sort of. Oh, wow, that looks good. Let me try it.
It's an interesting concept. You got to watch yourself because the plates stack up quick.
That's the thing is I think we ended up both having 7 plates and a couple appetizers, and it was my meal for the day. And yeah, that was a little catch on where it's like, oh hey, didn't mean to grab that many plates. And next thing you know, yeah, like you said, it stacks up and adds on. So that was an interesting experience. And too bad there doesn't seem to be one near me, but maybe it's a good thing. A little self-control. So. I mentioned how today is the NBA draft. It is one of my favorite days because this is such a cool accumulation of all of these young talents that the thing is there's pros and cons to all of these guys, obviously. Nobody is the perfect prospect, but each one of these guys are going to have deserved to have their name called tonight. And 2 things can be true. They deserve to have their name called tonight, and the real work starts as soon as you find your team. As soon as Adam Silver announces your name, it is up to you to now become the best NBA player because you did what you needed to do to get there. And yeah, congratulations to all of these young players. They are the 1% of the 1% that proceed to go on to the professional ranks at the highest level of basketball. But then just because you got to the NBA, the NFL, the MLB even, does not mean that you are good enough to stay there. And all the conversation of whether or not these guys will be good enough to stay there are things that have not been factored into reality quite yet. So the one player that I am actually really surprised that I have not talked about that I believe will be available at 20 for the Spurs, and Jeremy Wu, who is ESPN's main mock draft, NBA draft reporter, has actually mocked to the Spurs right now, is University of Texas 3 shooting guard / forward Dalen Swain. So Swain is somebody who played a couple years at Xavier and then last year played at Texas and became a breakout star. I could see him actually being as high as maybe like the 14th overall pick, just depending on if somebody likes him. But he's a 6'8" forward that can get to the rim at will. He shoots 34% from three, and he's one of these guys that you see in almost every draft where you like everything, and if he can be a sharp shooter, then he is somebody that could be perhaps the steal of the draft. Now, I've been saying this whole time that I really want the Spurs to draft a 4 or a 5 just to bolster up their front court if they can get somebody who can stretch the floor. There's going to be a few other guys that I talk about, but the 4 is really where I think the Spurs should be looking, because look at the Spurs rotation right now. You probably think that they're fine with point guards and just general 1/2 players. De'Aaron Fox, Steph Castle, Dylan Harper. That if you add another young player in that mix, it might be one of those things where that guy fell in the draft and it was a best available situation. The Spurs do have the 35th, 42nd, and 44th picks in the second round, and the second round of the draft will happen tomorrow night. So the Spurs could easily draft a guard somewhere in that range, and that might not be somebody that you expect to play as a second-round pick, but it'll be on the roster, perhaps a two-way guy. When it comes to the Spurs' needs, I feel like they want to draft somebody who can play right now, and I've been saying it, Yaxel Lindenberg is somebody that I think would fit that exactly, a 24-year-old rookie, but he is very much a Swiss Army knife, can do it all kind of player, and I hope that he's available at 20. And if he gets past the Golden State Warriors at 11, there might not be any teams that necessarily, perhaps Oklahoma City being an exception, that are looking for a 24-year-old rookie. And OKC has 12 and 17 in tonight's draft. So there's a chance that maybe they package those picks to see if they can trade up. So if they trade up to get somebody, then Yaxel might even continue to fall to the Spurs at 20. That would be sort of my dream pick. Henry Vesar from North Carolina is somebody who I also feel like has a solid potential. He has good size and shooting ability. I think that could be somebody that the Spurs could be looking at that would be possibly available at 20. And Kristaps Jr. is another guy who played at Houston, and he has a great physical profile. He's a great rebounder, and if he can become a floor spacer, then he might be exactly what the Spurs need to pair next to Wemby. But there aren't too many options that project to be there at 20 that I think will be immediate impact players. And I think that's good. It's a sign that the Spurs have returned to being contenders that, granted, this is the Atlanta Hawks pick swap, so it's not like it's a good thing the Spurs aren't drafting 29th where their pick would have actually been. So now what the Spurs do at 20, I think that they just go with best available as always, but I think that they would go best available at the 4. Dalen Swain, probably not necessarily a 4, but he could be a modern 4. So now we talk about the Spurs wing rotation, and just under contract, you have Julian Champagnie, Devin Vassell at the starting slots, Keldon Johnson and Carter Bryant as the backup wings, and you probably, I think it feels like Harrison Barnes is probably going to be a Spur next year. He just did the court unveiling in Mexico, and the Spurs were out there, and I just feel like he's a Spur, Harrison Barnes. There's not really much question about, if he fits the culture. And I don't know any situation where I don't see him coming back, but it's possible that he goes somewhere else in free agency. But Dalen Swain would be a good pickup for the Spurs and allow him to simmer a little bit in Austin to become a very dangerous player at the NBA level once he can get his three-point shooting down and sort of just develop as perhaps a primary option in Austin. So I wouldn't mind that. That's where the Spurs are that's who the Spurs are currently taking in Jeremy Woo's ESPN mock draft. I have a few other thoughts. I want to get into it at the top of the hour about the top of the draft and maybe some interesting players that the Spurs could look to perhaps trade up and get. I'd be curious to see what happens there, but this mock draft does take into account that the Bucks will be drafting 13th. So that is as part of the Giannis trade, they get the Miami Heat's 13th overall pick. I do not know exactly who the Thunder would pick, but you have to assume that the Thunder are going to try and bolster up their front line, especially after trading Aaron Wiggins. They're probably going to be looking for a forward to slot in there. And there's some other things in this mock draft, and as we get closer to the mock drafts, the mock drafts tend to be a little bit closer to the actual profile of what the draft will shake out to be. There are no promises in that, of course, because the first overall pick will be selected by the Washington Wizards, and all reports coming out are that the Wizards have not talked to anybody about that. But we got a little bit lost, and I might as well mention that the Wizards locked up Trae Young yesterday on a $212 million contract extension for 4 years. So does that change what the Wizards are going to be doing at first overall pick? Probably not, but you do now have that question eliminated. You also maybe have to worry about the Anthony Davis trade. Is there somebody who is willing to make the call right now and say to the Wizards, hey, what'll it take to get Anthony Davis out of your hands? That's a conversation I want to have when we come back at the top of the hour, but it will be a full-blown draft preview here as it is Christmas Day to me. I'm very excited. It's finally NBA Draft Day, and it is a fun one to be had at that. And just to preview the upcoming hour, the Wizards are drafting first, second overall, the Utah Jazz. Third pick belongs to the Memphis Grizzlies. Fourth, Chicago. And fifth, the LA Clippers. Now that the dust has settled just a little bit in the Giannis trade, there's still plenty of movement to be had. I think that those top five teams are going to, well, it's obvious they're going to draft at those spots, but I think the first four teams are going to actually make the selection, and they will have that player on their roster. Things get a little interesting at the Clippers pick, and then we'll talk about the rest of the lottery as well. And I'll get into some of my favorite potential trade-up picks for the Spurs if they look to trade up and what that could potentially cost. All that here on the starting lineup on Ticket 760, Hour 2, when we come back.
Buying a car from Wilcar Hyundai is easy and fun. And this is the month to save as well. Like 0.99% financing on 2026 Hyundai Tucsons or 1.99% on 26 Santa Fe's. And even $2,000 bonus cash on 26 Elantras. Plus, every new vehicle comes with America's Best 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty and Hyundai Owner's Assurance. Get upfront posted pricing and a great experience only at Wilcar Hyundai North or Wilcar Hyundai South. Wilcar, for a lifetime.
With approved credit to HMS.
Shop's back! 50 years in the Lone Star State. A one-stop shop so you're never late. Price is so low that you want to know which way to Specs. Come on, let's go. Specs Wine Spirits and Finer Foods. World-class service, that's all about you. Shop Specs, it's how we do. A huge selection since 62. Shop Specs, low priced, amazing. Here's to you. Shop. Cheers to savings.
I'm not great with words after a fight, and I'm sorry wasn't cutting it this time. So I used Joybox to write a soulful ballad about how she's always right. By the second chorus, the silent treatment was officially over. Visit joybox.com and get out of the doghouse today.
This July 4th, celebrate with America 250 at America's Block Party, hosted by Queen Latifah. It's a can't-miss 4th of July concert happening at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, featuring music performances from major artists, including Chris Stapleton and the Smashing Pumpkins, patriotic tributes, and the kickoff to Giving Forth, helping to make July 4th the largest day of giving in American history. Get your America's Block Party tickets at america250.org/LA.
Sponsored by Connecticut Water Systems. ConnecticutSA.com.
There's extreme heat in the east and active thunderstorms across the northern part of the country. A strong heat dome remains parked over the Midwest, Great Lakes, Northeast, and Mid-Atlantic, where temperatures are going to climb to near 100 degrees from Chicago and Detroit to New York City, Philadelphia, and Washington. Meanwhile, a frontal boundary across the northern plains and upper Midwest will trigger numerous thunderstorms from Montana and the Dakotas into Minnesota, Wisconsin, and northern Iowa. Some of them could be severe, and local flooding is a possibility. Temperatures will range from the 70s to the low 90s. Hot and humid in the south and along the Gulf Coast as highs reach the mid-90s with scattered thunderstorms, while the desert southwest continues to be the nation's hottest spot. Temperatures are ratcheting up to 115 across Arizona, southern Nevada, and southeastern California. Along the west coast, California sees temperatures in the north in the 70s to the low 80s. Southern California has a mini heat wave going on to start the summer off, with highs reaching the mid-90s. And pleasant conditions continue in the Pacific Northwest, mostly sunny with highs in the low 80s. That's your national forecast. I'm Tammy Trujillo.
This is Ticket 760, KTKR San Antonio, your home for sports. Guaranteed human. Make us the #1 preset in your car and on the free new and improved iHeartRadio app. This is the starting lineup. Here's your host, Karl Schoening.
Welcome to the starting lineup, hour 2 here on Ticket 760. I'm Karl Schoening, starting at your host and the voice coming through your speakers. I just had a quick chug of caffeine, highly caffeinated for draft day. LG is in the starting lineup with me, and he is making sure we sound good over the radio airwaves, look good on YouTube this morning. And we got to jump right into it. The NBA draft is tonight. It is one of my favorite days of the sports calendar. Oddly enough, these used to be on Thursdays. However, because the NBA has now made the first round a one-night event and the second round its next night event, I believe that's when they decided to make the shift to Tuesday to be the night of the first round. So tonight, in I guess about 12 hours, I will be live again on these airwaves with the Fanatics, Shane Carter and Dylan Emery at the Rock at La Cantera. We will be talking about the Spurs' 20th overall pick, but we'll be instantly reacting to everything. We go live at 7. First pick on the clock at 7:30, the Washington Wizards. So the Wizards will probably take A.J. Dybantsa, and that is a solid move. It makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels. He is, I think, the safest pick. He is one of the few freshmen that have ever led the nation in scoring. He is somebody that is a franchise cornerstone that probably fits pretty well with Trae Young. A solid enough defender, but a really good go-to scorer. A lot of comparisons have been drawn between him and Tracy McGrady, and I just feel like A.J. Dybantsa is the safe bet there at the first overall pick for the Washington Wizards. He has a very bright personality. He wants to go out and be a #1 overall pick kind of guy, so I really like the Wizards picking up A.J. Dybantsa there at BYU. The only guy that I feel like might be a safer pick at that first overall pick is Cam Boozer. But as long as the Anthony Davis situation is up in the air, Anthony Davis wants a max contract extension according to reports, I don't necessarily see a 4/5 being anywhere considered. There isn't really a 5 in this draft that would be going #1, so that 4/point guard forward in Cam Boozer is not going to be in consideration for the Wizards pick. And then there's the Darren Peterson question. Darren Peterson had a weird year at Kansas, and it's something I've guess I maybe knew somewhere in the files in the back of my brain, but the medical staff information, the medical information of these prospects is now, as part of the CBA, required for these prospects to give to all of the teams. Once upon a time, it used to be you could hide it to maybe determine you don't want to go somewhere. But Darren Peterson seems to be okay medically. He had cramps and then a knee and then an ankle injury. And sometimes when you're talking about a freshman in college having those kinds of injuries, is he maybe fragile? Can he handle an 82-game schedule? And partly because of that, otherwise I think he is the best prospect in this draft, but because of the question marks on things like that, I don't believe that he is going to go number 1 overall. And Peterson also sort of describes himself as an introverted loner. And I think sometimes when you're looking at these guys to possibly be the face of your franchise, is that maybe something that will put him over the top for some teams or underwhelm other teams? For the Washington Wizards, I feel like they would much rather go with A.J. Dibonsa, who played every game and went to every practice at BYU and seems like the safest high upside swing pick at number 1 overall. So A.J. Dibonsa to the Wizards is my guess there. According to the ESPN mock draft, Darren Peterson goes number 2 to the Utah Jazz. Makes a lot of sense, really. Keontae George will get a running mate in the backcourt with him. Some interesting kind of connections here. Peterson and George share an agency, so I think that they're not necessarily thrilled that they'll be in the same backcourt together, but this doesn't come down to agents. I think it comes down to what is the best fit for the Utah Jazz. They have Ace Bailey. They have Lauri Markkanen. They have Keontae George. They have Walker Kessler, who they'll probably re-sign in restricted free agency. And I think the Jazz go with Darren Peterson because he's probably the better fit than Cam Boozer. And then it's simple enough for the Memphis Grizzlies. Of the 3 players I've already been talking about, they just take whoever wasn't selected. And in this particular case, it's Cam Boozer, one of the best players in college basketball, off the charts metrically. The thing about Cam Boozer is he doesn't have that sexy, fluid athleticism that will get him to be, will probably, if he had it, would make him the first overall pick. He's not necessarily a great defender in any real way. And a lot of comparisons have been Al Horford and Kevin Love, and you see that in his game. He is an elite rebounder. He is a good passer. He's actually a great passer. He can score in a variety of ways. His second most common play in college was the pick and roll ball handler. So he's somebody that you can play in multiple positions. And the Memphis Grizzlies, I think the time is coming for them to move on from John Morant, even for pennies on the dollar, for his trade value, and they should just start building around Zach Edey and Cameron Boozer being their 2 sort of centerpieces that move forward. They have Taylor Hendricks, whatever. They got him in the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade. So we'll have to see what happens in that particular case. I think the Grizzlies would be ecstatic if they had Darren Peterson come to them at 3, but they are happy with any of the 3 that make it that far. I will say that I don't think A.J. Dibonsa gets past Utah at number 2 if Peterson does end up being the pick for Washington, or if they shock everybody and go with Cam Boozer. But A.J. Dibonsa is somebody who spent the last few years of his high school career in Utah and signed an NIL deal estimated to be $7 to $8.5 million with BYU. He would be a no-brainer for the Jazz if he were to move to 2. So those are the top 3, almost guaranteed. And then 4th overall, the Chicago Bulls are going to probably take Caleb Wilson. Wilson is somebody who has drawn comparisons to Kevin Garnett, and even Caleb Wilson said, hey, let's take a step back there. That's a Hall of Famer, and if I get to be a Hall of Fame level player, I wouldn't necessarily want to have a 19-year-old who hasn't done anything to be compared to me. So he's taking the humble approach, but he is a high motor, high intensity, all of the tools, ball of clay for Thiago Splitter to coach at the 4th overall pick. And with him getting Nick Claxton to help them sort of anchor that defense, I think that'll give Caleb Wilson a chance to be a different kind of defender. He doesn't need to necessarily protect the rim. He averaged a steal and a half and a block per game. He's the only player to average that 2.5 stocks per game in college basketball last year. He doesn't have the skills to be a high-level NBA player out of the bat, but he has all of the oozing talent and athleticism and physical measurements to say that Caleb Wilson, if he puts it together and develops some skills, he could be the best player in this draft. But he could be, if nothing else, a Jonathan Isaac level player. And you're hoping that he is a significantly better player than that. But Jonathan Isaac has been a solid player when he's been healthy. It's been the injuries that have held back Jonathan Isaac. But what I mean is he is a elite defensive player that can do a lot with his athleticism. Then things get really interesting with the Clippers at the 5th overall pick. I think the Clippers are very much happy to say we like several players here that we could take at 5. Currently in the mock draft, Keaton Wagler from Illinois is a combo guard that is kind of thin but knows how to play the game of basketball and could be a very good player in this draft. I think that the Clippers move this pick. This is where I feel like the draft really starts to get interesting. There's going to be a chance that they draft a player in just like a Darius Acuff that has garnered a lot of attention from guys that are going to likely – Darius Acuff isn't likely to make it past the Brooklyn Nets at 6, but do the Sacramento Kings somehow work out a deal with the Clippers to move up to 5 to get Darius Acuff, or do they just all hold stock and say we will draft who we think is the best available? It's hard to make these trades where you're moving back just a few picks. What's the overall estimated value of all of those things? So I kind of feel like you're going to see some of these guys, some of these teams like the Brooklyn Nets, the Sacramento Kings, maybe even the Dallas Mavericks trying to get to that 5th overall pick to get their guy. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that Clippers 5th overall pick. But if the Clippers are selecting for themselves here, there's just a lot of conversation of getting a bit more shored up at the sort of point guard, shooting guard position. Darius Garland was their trade deadline acquisition for James Harden. Some questions about if he is the long-term fit there for the Clippers. If you're the Clippers, I think you just go with best available, and that starts with the guards that are in this draft. This is a very guard-heavy draft. I'm going to start rattling off some names that are going to be going here in the 5 to 15 range. You're going to be hearing a lot of guards. I'm just going to go with all the guards in this draft, and I really wouldn't be surprised if any of these guys are taken ahead of each other. I'll start off with this Keaton Wagler from Illinois. He is a very popular pick for the 5th overall pick right now, but I could see him falling maybe as far as 9th to Dallas. Then you have Mikel Brown from Louisville, who perhaps would be a no-brainer and perhaps even in the top 4 conversation if he didn't have a back injury that kept him out. But he's a solid-sized point guard for Louisville that I believe he'll be taken somewhere in the 5 to 8 range. Sacramento, they love Darius Acuff. There's connections there between their front office and Acuff in terms of, I believe Acuff's father played with the Sacramento Kings general manager. It's at some level. They're from Detroit area, so there's just going to be some connections there. The Atlanta Hawks currently mocked to take Kingston Flemings, who's from Brennan High School here in San Antonio. Kingston Flemings, I wouldn't be surprised if he's the 5th overall pick. He's a De'Aaron Fox type player. He is a Derrick Rose light. He is a phenomenal athlete, and he very much felt like he was trying to learn how to control his uber athleticism at Houston, and he's only going to get better. The current mock draft has the Hawks taking him at 8. That's a possibility, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Hawks trade out of that to perhaps get more assets. We'll see what Atlanta decides to do. The interesting thing about the Dallas Mavericks is they are 9th in this draft, and there's been a lot of talk about them going after Braden Burries out of Arizona, another guard. But currently in this mock draft, Nate Ahmet has moved all the way up to 9, and we've talked about Nate Ahmet as a ball-handling 6'11" forward out of Tennessee that has a lot of upside, but you have to sort of develop him, and he could possibly be somebody who shares the front court with Cooper Flagg for the next 10 years. But a few more guards that might eventually get drafted. Christian Anderson, he's going to be outside of the lottery, but he's a Texas Tech point guard. And Bennett Stritz, who is a sharpshooting senior out of Iowa. So a lot of guards that are going to be taken from the 5th overall pick to the 20th overall pick is pretty good for the Spurs, who I've said I think that they would probably want to bolster up their front court. There's plenty more to talk about here as we'll get into now the end of the lottery, some of the front court players that'll be taken off of the board, and maybe if there's some guys that I think that the Spurs should target if they move up. Draft day here on Ticket 760. So excited about the NBA draft tonight. We will talk about who the Spurs could possibly look to get if they do trade up, or who maybe they should hope it falls to them at 20. But I'd be a little more aggressive about the guys we're going to be talking about here on Ticket 760.
On Plus Nicotine Pouches present Comfort Chronicles. A 10 o'clock tea time. How comfortable. You show up in stretchy shorts, a breathable tee, and maybe no socks.
Let the dogs breathe.
While others sweat in pleated khakis, you're in your comfort zone bombing drives. And in your pocket, On Plus Nicotine Pouches. The softest pouch on the planet. Buy a can at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
San Antonio is paying attention to the Toros. Loyal crowd and a fan base that's getting bigger every week. Right now, smart businesses have the opportunity to get in early and align with one of the fastest growing sports brands in South Texas. Your business can reach passionate local fans through live games, in-stadium promotions, social media, streaming broadcasts, and high-impact community activities. Become an official partner of the San Antonio Toros today. Email media@cofltoros.com. Vamos Toros.
What does it mean to work with one of the largest personal injury law firms in Texas? At Thomas J. Henry, it means we can put our team of experts to work for you. Visit thomasjhenrylaw.com. The name you know, the firm you trust. Principal office, San Antonio.
Proud to make Pops proud. Proud to be Proud Pops.
I'm Brandon Rackler, co-founder of Proud Pops Plumbing, Air, Electric.
And I'm Jacob Magby, Brandon's slightly older sorter brother.
When Jake and I worked with our pops installing water heaters for our customers, we learned just how important it is to have enough hot water ready when you need it.
As Pop used to say, nothing beats a hot shower, except maybe a hot shower with someone you love.
Wait, Pop said that?
Sure did.
You mean about him and Mom?
I guess.
Our annual water heater clean and check will make sure your tank is working its best. Free from leaks, clean from corrosion, and ready to provide reliable hot water to your whole family.
But please, don't picture your parents having a shower together.
Proud to make Pops proud. Proud to be Proud Pops.
Give us a call and we'll pop in.
Visit proudpops.com.
Uber and Lyft drivers. Driverless cars are coming. Will drivers be replaced, or will drivers own what comes next? Fair Co-op helps drivers earn up to 90% and gives out 25% of net profits from each ride for referrals. For life. Be a leader, the first in your city. Help build the movement. The drivers who lead now can help shape the next generation of rideshare. Fair Co-op, official partner of iHeartRadio. Download the app now at fair.coop/iHeart. That's FARE.coop/iHeart.
America's 250th anniversary is a big event. And if you're promoting a business, your advertising plan needs to be bigger than one channel. iHeart can help you bring your message to life across podcasts and broadcast, meaning your business will show up with scale and depth wherever your customers are listening. America 250 builds up into the July 4th weekend when listeners are traveling, celebrating, and tuned in. Let iHeart help you surround those moments. Call 844-844-iHeart today to get started. That's 844-844-iHeart.
The global stage is lit. The 2026 FIFA World Cup is on.
Lionel Messi!
iHeartRadio and Fox Sports are bringing you every match of FIFA World Cup 2026.
Live.
The magic touch.
Lock in your preset now on the free iHeartRadio app.
Just search World Cup.
Just a beauty for a second of the game.
Every unforgettable moment.
Wherever you are.
Brilliant from Mbappe. France lead.
Don't miss Team USA's next match Thursday night at 10 Eastern.
The world is listening.
Are you?
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the OSAA, are the 99,000 high school sports and performing arts students in Oregon. And so, we stand. We stand for the runners, debate team members, and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, officials, and adjudicators. We stand for the drummers, football players, and actors. We stand for the golfers, singers, and swimmers. We stand as the national leader and advocate for these essential activities and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
Your ticket for the best Spurs talk. Back to the starting lineup.
Plenty of Spurs talk here on the starting lineup as the offseason has officially gotten underway in the NBA. Plenty of moves, including the Giannis Antetokounmpo trade going to Miami, happening yesterday or last night into today. Depends on, I guess, which coast you were in, but certainly the big first domino of many dominoes to fall in the NBA offseason. I'm your host, Karl Schoening. You can reach out to me on X and Instagram at OnAirKarl. LG is in the starting lineup with me. He is at DJLG210, and other people are involved in the show today too, LG, you told me.
Yeah, there's some people chatting on YouTube. We are streaming live on YouTube at Starting Lineup Live. Todd McCown's in here. What's up, Todd? Haven't seen you in a while. He says, what's up, fellows? Hanover Fist. Good morning, starting lineup crew. I would not be mad at Dalen Swain. Oh, I guess that's the forward out of Texas.
Yep. Yeah, we're talking about him. Currently mocked in the ESPN draft to the Spurs at 20.
Okay, nice. And then Chris Silva's in here. What up, Chris? He says, how about them Silver Dancers coming back? I need to buy some tickets. That's true. The Spurs have announced that the Silver Dancers cheerleading squad will be returning for select games next season.
Oh, yeah. That was actually one of my big tweets yesterday, was announcing that. And I think everybody knows in 2018, the Spurs went for a co-ed group, the Hype Squad, and the Hype Squad will still be around. But yeah, the Silver Dancers coming back as well to increase the Spurs fan experience. So that's always great. They were really popular, and based off of the responses, seems like a lot of people like the move for the Spurs to bring back the Silver Dancers.
Yes, sir. And Jeremy 210 Texas is in here, says, I would love for the Spurs to take Karim Lopez from Mexico, and then so would Karl. He's mentioned that several times over the past week or so. And Hanover Fist in here says, a friend was telling me about Chris Sinak.
So next segment, I think I want to get into the realistic players that'll be there at 20 for the Spurs. And now I want to talk about the players that I don't expect to fall to 20 that might be worth the Spurs trading up to get. Now, who are those players that the Spurs might be interested in? I think it's a 4, maybe a 5, but I want to start with the guy that I would love to see the Spurs go after, but I doubt that they can trade up to get. However, I feel like if the Spurs also like him, they would have to trade up and get him, and that's Morez Johnson Jr., a forward that is out of Michigan, and he's a sophomore that is perhaps the best athlete that's left in the draft after the top 5 at the forward position for sure, after Caleb Wilson. I think that he's somebody that is probably not going to make it past the Oklahoma City Thunder at 12. You know, OKC's not going to help out the Spurs by trading, from 20 to 12, whatever that might look like. So you'd have to assume that the Spurs would have to jump all the way up to maybe 11 to the Golden State Warriors pick. That's not necessarily a bad move if the Spurs are willing to give up some player to help the Warriors win now as well. But I believe that the Spurs, if they were to trade up to get one guy, Merez Johnson Jr. would be among those guys. Kareem Lopez is obviously somebody who I think also has built up his stock enough that the Spurs might have to trade up and get him. Is that maybe somebody that the Milwaukee Bucks would be willing to flip the 13th overall pick that they just got in the Giannis trade from the Heat to maybe help the Spurs get Kareem Lopez, who is sort of a thicker 3. He's a 6'8", 220-pound wing. He's going to grow a little bit more, I'm sure. But he went an interesting route from Mexico. He moved to Spain, and then from Spain he became part of the Australian Basketball League, the NBL Next program, which has produced some solid players, most notably LaMelo Ball. He played with the New Zealand Breakers last year. Solid shooter, solid all-around player. Could really see the Spurs picking him if they were to trade up. And then there's a few players that I think that if they traded up would be worth getting. Yaxel Linenberg would be probably the number one guy that I think would help the Spurs win right now. Yaxel at UAB was the do-it-all player who led the team in points, rebounds, assists, and had the ball in his hands the entire time. And then this year at Michigan became sort of off-ball contributor and a stretch 4 with a 37% shooting numbers from behind the three-point line. I think you have to trade up to get him, and you might have to trade up to Chicago's pick at 15. But Chicago, they probably don't mind accumulating assets and staying in the draft. So if the Spurs were to package the 20th overall pick and the 35th overall pick that they have tomorrow in the second round, they also have the 42nd and the 44th. I'm not sure how much additional value those picks would be, if they combined with the 35th, because now you're getting into just too many rookies on a team. Chicago might be interested in something along those lines, and the Spurs have several interesting moves that they can make with pick swaps as well moving forward. So plenty of draft capital for the Spurs. Not sure if anybody is worth giving up a player on the roster for in this draft, but if they only need to give up some theoretical picks and they really like their guy and they think that it could be somebody could help the Spurs get over the hump, which was only 3 games away from winning the NBA Finals, then yeah, I say go for it. But yeah, Yaxel would probably be the last guy that I would trade up for the Spurs. And then just a couple names that, if the Spurs draft him, I always trust the Spurs, but I don't necessarily want the Spurs drafting Allen Graves out of Santa Clara. He didn't really perform too well against quad 1, quad 2 teams, like basically the top 50% of the NCAA. He was the 6th man off the Santa Clara team, and I don't think that the Broncos necessarily have a tough conference, so that would be just jumping very high for Allen Graves, who you have to hope that he has a lot of raw upside potential. And another guy that I'm not necessarily sure would be bad for the Spurs to draft, but it would be interesting, is Chris Sinak Jr. I really like him as a rebounder. Hanover Fist brought him up. He is a raw young freshman who maybe would probably have been better off spending one more year in Houston, and he would have been a top 10 guy. He was a top 10 guy going into his freshman year at Houston, and he just isn't necessarily polished. Let's put it that way. I think that he's very much raw potential, and it's certainly not a player that I think the Spurs should trade up and get. He's going to probably be there available at 20. And Chris Sanak Jr. has been tied to the Spurs because it kind of makes a lot of sense. Texas ties just down I-10 in Houston, but I don't necessarily think that that is a pick that the Spurs would trade up to get, and I'm not necessarily even sure if Graves or Sanak being there at 20 would make the pick. But if it came down to Graves or Sanak, I would probably go with Sanak. A lot of upside there. If he can develop into a shooter, he's an elite rebounder. That could definitely make him a very valuable forward. Needs to learn how to play defense, but his physicals are great. So I would love to see Chris Sanak perhaps as a pick at 20, not somebody that they would trade up to. But there's a lot going on here, and I feel like if the Spurs can combine pick 35 and pick 20 to move up 5 spots to the Chicago Bulls, they can get a good forward that can contribute next year. If they wait until 20, you're probably talking about somebody that is going to be developed in Austin, and that's not a bad thing either, because the Spurs are still going to have their MLE, non-taxpayer MLE, to be able to go after a player, and that could be Kristaps Porzingis potentially. And then you never know. The Spurs, they might have a trade down the line. There's going to be plenty of movement made across the NBA. We'll talk a little bit more about the players I think the Spurs will be able to draft at 20, and a few other names that you might be interested in if you are of similar thought process to me. Some guys that will probably go ahead of the Spurs that you want to be prepared for, and some guys that will go probably behind the Spurs pick at 20 that you might want to be ready for, as I will be out there at the Rocket La Cantera with the Fanatics, Dylan Emery and Shane Carter tonight. We start our coverage at 7 right here on Ticket 760. We'll go until 10 to cover the first round tonight of the NBA draft. Talk more draft when we come back here on Ticket 760.
For more information about contests on this station, go to ticket760.com/rules.
At Uline, they know going the extra mile takes hard work. For companies pushing to go further, Uline will go the distance with you. 24/7, they answer the phone to get you the shipping and industrial supplies you need. Business can move fast. Unexpected large orders, adverse weather, new safety guidelines, and changing economic trends. Uline works hard keeping 41,000 items ready to ship, minimizing detours on your way to the extra mile. Visit uline.com.
Pickleball is on the rise. 46.8 million players nationwide, with a projected $5 billion industry by 2033. Looking to be part of this exciting growth? Crush Yard offers a unique franchise opportunity, redefining the pickleball experience with indoor court, exceptional dining, craft drinks, and entertainment. This is your chance to invest in a rapidly growing brand shaping the future of leisure. For a limited time, you can own a piece of the action. Visit CrushYardFranchising.com to learn more. Crush Yard, Pickleball Bar and Lounge.
Did you know that 1 in 4 men over 40 have low testosterone, low energy, low sex drive, low motivation, and barely recognize themselves? Sound familiar? 100% of us can get it all back and feel great at Synergenics, just like I did a few years ago. The experts at Hormone Health in San Antonio, that is Synergenics. They tailor their TRT plans to every man to get your levels back to where they need to be so we can all feel great, look great, and live our best lives. Go to FixMyLowT.com. That's FixMyLowT.com to book your free testosterone tests today.
Do you have a car that you just don't like, or you owe too much and your payments are too high?
Then now's the time to bring it in to World Car Kia South.
Swap cars during the Summer Sticker Sales event and get 0% financing on a new 26 Kia Sportage.
Or 0% on 26 Sorrentos too.
Plus, everyone gets lifetime warranty and lifetime roadside assistance.
Visit World Car Kia South and save.
I-35, exit Palo Alto. Kia, World Car Kia.
All offers with approved credit through KMF.
You've got to try the new TikTok diet.
Just ask Chat.
I just take blue-green algae.
Or you could trust your gut. When it comes to your health, how do you know what's right for you? That's where Viome comes in. Viome is a simple, at-home gut health test that analyzes your real-time biology to give you personalized nutrition guidance and custom supplements. Not trends, your biology.
Learn more at Viome.com/know. V as in Victor, IOME.com/KNOW. And use coupon code VIOME50 to save $50 off your purchase.
You
can never have too many tools. Shop DeWalt deals at Lowe's. Get a free Select DeWalt 20-volt max power tool when you buy a Select 20-volt max 5-amp-hour battery kit. Plus, get a free additional DeWalt 20-volt max 8-amp-hour battery when you buy a DeWalt 10-inch 20-volt max dual-bevel compounded miter saw. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 6/24 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
It didn't matter to me what type of car it was. It mattered that it was a Soul.
It's really one of those places that shines bright because of the people who they have working for them.
They know me so well. Best vehicle, best customer service.
We all like to think we're special, and they just do that for me. But the reality is they do that for everyone.
A Soul will always be in my driveway.
Experience the Soul difference for yourself at Mercedes-Benz of Selma, now a Soul company.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
He didn't make the team, but he's in our starting lineup. Back to Karl Schoening.
Halfway through hour 2 here on a draft day special. The first round of the NBA draft tonight. The Spurs drafting 20th. And everything gets kicked off with the Washington Wizards drafting first. I'm Karl Schoening. In the starting lineup with me is LG. You can reach out to me at On Air Karl. You can reach out to LG at DJLG210. We've been talking about it all morning, who the Spurs would maybe draft. Most likely if they stay at 20. You got to go best available in a sense, unless perhaps the best available is a point guard. I've been on record all week saying that the only point guard that feels like the Spurs should draft if he were to somehow, and not going to happen at all, fall to 20 is Kingston Flemings, who is a San Antonio product and went to U of H, and I could see him being a very high upside swing who, not saying he could be the best player in this draft, but he could be one of the most productive players in this draft when we look back at it. What happened to him, I guess? Like, why was he not somebody who was taken in the top 10? I could see Kingston Flemings maybe falling outside of the top 10. No way I really saw him see him falling to 20. A couple wings that the Spurs might be interested in if they fall to 20, and there isn't really a forward or center that they like there, is Cameron Carr out of Baylor. We talked a little bit about Dalen Swain out of Texas. There's also, I suppose, a little bit of a chance that Isaiah Evans out of Duke is somewhat intriguing. Those are guys in that range that maybe makes a little bit of sense. But the big thing is for the Spurs, I think, to start to really solidify their front court. And Heinrich Steinbach out of Washington has a big physical profile. He can definitely be a future 5 for the Spurs. I don't necessarily think he's going to be there at 20. Somebody who will be there at 20, as far as I can tell from most mock drafts, is going to be Henry Vesar. I really think that he's somebody 6'11", 227 out of Estonia, but played for North Carolina. In his career, he has improved as a three-point shooter every single year he was in college. He went from in 29 games shooting 27% as a freshman to increasing that to 32% as a sophomore, and last year as a junior with North Carolina, he really stretched the floor, knocking down 42% of his three-point shots. And I think that that's something that the Spurs need to look at going forward with any of their big men around Victor Wembanyama, is can you stretch the floor? So I wouldn't be surprised to see Vesar there to draft the guy as the Spurs draft pick at 20 if the Spurs were to stay in that spot. The Atlanta Hawks have the 8th overall pick. There have been rumors of them shopping that pick, and that would be very interesting if the Spurs have a guy that they like that they don't expect to make it out of the lottery, to see what they can do to trade up to Atlanta's 8th overall pick. However, the Spurs own the Atlanta's 2027 pick outright. Would essentially trading 20 for 8 as well as giving the Hawks back their 2027 pick next year be worth it? I don't think so. I think with the new draft lottery format next year, the Spurs should just keep that 27 pick, and maybe it's a valuable piece at the trade deadline. Maybe it becomes the first overall pick in next year's draft. This is a very deep draft. A lot of people are highly touting this draft. We'll have to see what happens. Another guy that would be interesting for the Spurs, I don't think that they trade up to get him, and I don't think that he falls to 20, but Adai Mara is the 7'3" center out of Michigan. There's questions of him just being, your typical 7'3" guy of can he ever switch on to faster defenders? Is he going to ever develop into a stretch center? However, I do think that he is somebody that a Western Conference team is going to select, so there is another big body to be thrown at Victor Wembanyama. The Spurs probably don't trade up to get him, but if he's available at 20, you can't pass up on him. So I do think Adai Mara is somebody that the Spurs, if he's available at 20, would basically just go super jumbo and get a 7'3" guy to go up with their 7'4" guy, and nobody's going to really be able to score inside on the San Antonio Spurs if you have those two guys sharing the front court. But, again, the Spurs probably are going to go in the forward/center direction, and a lot of the mock drafts I'm seeing have the best of those positions going in the 9 to 14, 15 range. So I could definitely see the Spurs saying, hey, if we like two guys in this draft, we're going to basically have some deals in place. There's so much conversation in the NBA draft about moving up, moving down, waiting to see who is a late faller, and then there's questions of why is this guy a faller, that by the time that it comes up to your pick and you're on the clock. I remember a big guy that fell in the draft was Keldon Johnson. He was probably not supposed to go 29th overall in his draft in 2018, I believe it was. 2019 was the Keldon Johnson draft, and the thing that I think John Calipari said afterwards was there's no real reason why Keldon dropped, but sometimes when he falls past a certain point, teams are trying to figure out why this guy dropped, and while they're trying to figure out why this guy dropped and they don't find an answer because there is no real answer, then all of a sudden he just continues to fall. And who might that be in this draft? Well, we can only see. But now because of the new trade or the new draft format where the first round is tonight and the second round is tomorrow, you just hope that this guy doesn't have an awkward walk out of Barclays Center tonight. Super excited. Once again, I'll be on with Shane Carter and Dylan Emery. We wrap up the show coming up next. And LG, I meant to ask, did you do your homework? I asked you if you were going to do your homework there about, did you watch any draft coverage? Is that something you did? Did you get on YouTube last night and learn about some of these prospects, pick out a favorite?
Hell no!
Of course. Okay. All righty. We wrap up the show when we come back. Happy draft day, y'all.
Academy Sports and Outdoors doesn't sell meat. We do sell the things that make meat meat. Grills that make steak sizzle, smokers that melt brisket, and chairs that make you say, let's sit and eat meat. The shade you're under, spice you're tasting, and shirt you're wearing, that's us. Chairs, cherry wood, and charcoal, yes, yes, yes. Corned beef, no. Corn whole, yes. Canopies, yep. Canapes, I don't know what that is. Meat, no. Everything else you need to celebrate 250 years of America, yes. Academy, fun can't lose.
We've all been there. You start a DIY project thinking it'll be simple, but then something doesn't look right or doesn't work at all. I'm George Salinas with Absolute Power. Whether you're just getting started, halfway through, or realizing a project's gone a little sideways, we're here to help. From small fixes to big electrical repairs, we step in and get you back on track. Call today at 210-904-1521 or visit absolute-pwr.com to schedule your free estimate. Absolute Power Electrical Contractors. at your service.
Since 1993, Thomas J. Henry dedicated himself to building a firm that injured clients can trust and respect. A firm backed by a track record of success and commitment to our clients. If you've been injured, trust Thomas J. Henry, San Antonio, Texas.
On Plus Nicotine Pouches present Comfort Chronicles. A 10 o'clock tea time. How comfortable. You show up in stretchy shorts, a breathable tee, and maybe no socks. Let the dogs breathe. While others sweat in pleated khakis, you're in your comfort zone bombing drives. And in your pocket, On Plus Nicotine Pouches. The softest pouch on the planet. Buy a can at onnicotine.com. Products for tobacco consumers 21 years of age or older. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical.
In this edition of the Marketer's Report, Scott Hinchelwood, a director at St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital, talks about the power of live events.
We've been working with iHeart now going back to your beginning, and we have over 60 iHeart station partners out there telling our story, and it really helps drive that St. Jude mission home and share our patients and share our mission.
As the #1 audio company, iHeartMedia connects marketers to the audiences, live events, and trusted influencers you need to grow. If you're a marketer, go to iHeartAdvertising.com.
We never have to worry about hard water in our home thanks to the Connecticut of San Antonio Quality Water Softener. Get quality water in your home with Connecticut of San Antonio. Call them now at 210-656-PURE or visit ConnecticutSA.com.
The FIFA World Cup is everywhere.
What a strike!
But the only place to hear every game live for free
is iHeartRadio.
Don't miss a moment. Open the app, search World Cup, and listen now.
You like saving money, right? We all do. That's why Allstate just lowered the price of car insurance. Not, but wait, there's a catch. Lower. Actually lower. So if you're shopping around or just want to see how much you could save, check Allstate first for a new lower auto rate that could save you hundreds. You're in good hands with Allstate. Not available in every state. Only applicable for new auto insurance business. Rates will vary by several factors, including how you purchase the policy. Potential savings vary. Allstate North American Insurance Company and Affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Got a DWI? Don't wait. What you do next matters. Not all classes are accepted by Texas courts. Before you pay, make sure it's state approved and live. Alamo Center has helped Texans for over 30 years complete their court-ordered DWI and drug education classes live and instructor-led. No pre-recorded videos. Real instructors, real support. Classes fill up fast. Secure your spot today. Speak to a live person now. Call 210-824-5537 or visit alamocenter.org. Alamo Center. The road back starts here.
Summer is on its way, and it's going to be super hot again. You can count on that. If your air conditioning system isn't up to par, or if you need a new one, it's time to call Manuel & Sons. At Manuel & Sons, right now, you can get a 1.5 to 5-ton Frederick 15-seater for just $77.95. Need a spring tune-up? Right now, only $89. Certified technicians, local company, someone actually answers the phone. If your system is struggling, call today, 549-4839, 549-4839, manuelandsons.com.
Do you have an unused car, truck, motorcycle, boat, or RV taking up space? Put it to good use by donating it to the NASCAR Foundation. Proceeds help fund medical resources for children in our racing community. Your wheels can heal. Call 844-NASCAR-9 and we'll come tow away your vehicle for free. The process is quick and your gift is tax deductible. Call 844-NASCAR-9 to donate your vehicle to the NASCAR Foundation today. Your donation will help our children survive and thrive.
Silver and black and no excuses. Start your day with a starting lineup.
Maybe fair to say there's an excuse for the silver and black tonight. If they want to go after a guy and the price is a little too high to trade up from 20 to get him, that's fine. You move on. This is a good Spurs team that just made it to the finals, and if they can improve at 20, that's great. If they get a guy that will maybe help them down the line at 20, also great. I'm your host, Karl Schoening. LG is in the starting lineup with me here as we wrap up the show today on a draft day special. Yesterday, we also saw, or I guess last night, the big trade of Giannis Antetokounmpo going to the Miami Heat. You know, something we were talking about, LG, was the prediction market yesterday, or maybe I guess it was even before yesterday's show, the night before on Sunday night, that the prediction market had the Heat as an 80% chance. So, you know, I guess Vegas knows, prediction markets knows. So we're maybe giving it a little bit of a Is that to encourage gambling, or is this something where it's actually predicting the winner a little bit higher rate? And I suppose it ended up being predicting the winner. So there you go. That's how that works sometimes.
It's both.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So the big fallout is what didn't happen. Jaylen Brown was involved in the trade conversations with Giannis. It was supposed to be the Celtics package of Jaylen Brown and 2 first-round picks, comes out in the open, and now the Boston Celtics have to deal with the awkward situation of Jaylen Brown coming back potentially. So Jaylen Brown is 29 years old. He has 3 years left on his contract. He was 6th in MVP voting this year, and he very much could be a number 1 option or a phenomenal number 2 option on a team. And I think what happens next in this saga is Jaylen Brown gets traded. Where does he get traded to? I would say the Clippers would be a fair guess. A lot of Spurs fans are clamoring about him being available. Wouldn't be a bad addition to the Spurs. However, I just think that if the Celtics are smart, they would go after players that the Spurs wouldn't want to give up. In, you don't really mess with a team that just made it to the finals, in my opinion, for a guy who maybe is a little disgruntled where he is, and you don't want any of that to carry over into San Antonio. He would be a great addition for any of the other 29 teams in the NBA, but you sort of get the feeling that his time in Boston is done. However, they're not going to trade Jaylen Brown for nothing. They are going to keep Jaylen Brown as long as they have him under contract and he isn't necessarily demanding a trade and being an issue. And this is where Jaylen Brown's getting paid $57 million next season, $61 after that, and $64 to wrap up his contract in the 28-29 season. He is getting paid well to deal with whatever dramas he has to deal with in Boston. It's the only franchise he's known since being drafted out of Cal, and I think Jaylen Brown is going to probably be a Boston Celtic when it's all said and done. However, this feels like the opening move of Jaylen Brown requesting a trade, because it's been 2 of the last 4 years where he's been in trade conversations. Jaylen Brown has been in trade conversations almost any time a star has kind of poked its head out as a potential pickup for the Boston Celtics. He is probably higher value than Jason Tatum coming off of the Achilles injury. And I would say that Jaylen Brown and the Jays, if you will, are probably over, but only if the Celtics can make a move that makes sense. And what is that move? Well, they're going to have to be the ones to figure that out, not me. But Jaylen Brown still could very much help any NBA team, and I understand why Spurs fans would like him. I don't necessarily see the age fitting 29 going with a 22-year-old Victor Wembanyama. Jaylen Brown, once again, a great player, not necessarily somebody you think the Spurs would be going after unless they could get a great deal, and I don't necessarily see Boston allowing anybody to get a great deal. They were really only willing to part with Jaylen Brown for Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is probably the better player if you were to really look at it. But that is interesting for the Boston Celtics to have to deal with we didn't quite get Giannis, and now you got to deal with Jaylen Brown, who's had a very interesting offseason on Twitch and his streaming platforms. I do think that there's some interesting things that'll happen in the draft, including what the Celtics do at 27. However, it is a good move for the Spurs to be at 20. I'm really more excited about the Spurs drafting at 20 than 29. That's an obvious statement, but I've mentioned it, and I'm curious. I'm going to see maybe if I get a chance to talk to Brian Wright tonight at his media availability and ask the question of how many guys in the NIL era this year could have potentially been drafted in the first round, maybe even before 20, that went back to college. That's something that we're going to have to deal with in the NBA. Is tomorrow night is the second round, and there might only be 5 or 6 guys that are drafted in the second round moving forward every single year that really make an impact on the NBA. and we're just going to deal with a lot of these guys returning to college, getting paid there. You're not going to see too many international, or at least players that played international basketball drafted tonight. A lot of these guys are from other countries, but they went to college basketball route. Part of that is because FIBA, I think Luka Doncic was among the last generation of players that you were able to sign professional contracts younger than 18 years old. Victor Wembanyama might be among those last people. I don't exactly know how it works, but on top of FIBA changing their rule about under 18-year-olds signing professionally for their FIBA teams, it's just significantly better paydays in the NCAA. If you are a good 18-year-old, then you are going to probably get much better NIL money playing for an American college team than you are for any of the international professional teams, and that's good. I think that brings a lot of the talent that would have otherwise been simmering on professional benches for years, waiting their turn to get opportunities to be in the NBA, including several players like Heinrich Steinbach and Adai Mora. So good opportunities for those international players to play college basketball. So, as we wrap up this show, LG, you've had to listen to me talk about the draft. Is there somebody that I've really talked about that I don't think that I have a pick that I hope the Spurs get, except maybe Yaxel, just because I like saying Yaxel's name, Lindenborg. But has anybody that I've said really stood out to you that you would like the Spurs to get, even if it's maybe a trade up? No,
not at all. I think this is a pretty underwhelming draft, to tell you the truth, especially in the lottery picks. And at 20, who knows who's going to fall down to 20? Maybe they pick up some kind of gem. Maybe they luck out in the second round like they did with Manu Ginobili. Who knows? But it feels very underwhelming this year.
It really does feel like this is a well-constructed Spurs team that doesn't need help from the 20th overall pick, and they don't need to move up and get a guy either. So I don't know if I'd call it underwhelming, but none of the guys that are going to be drafted after maybe pick 5, which the Spurs aren't going to trade up to get anyway, are going to help the Spurs get over the hump and win the finals. If I had a guess, it's very rare for a rookie to be impactful. Obviously, Dylan Harper, extreme exception, but and Carter Bryant also has had his flashes, and he's going to develop as well. The Spurs, their offseason is going to be one in free agency and maybe some trades. Who knows? We'll see, and we will talk all about it here on the Starting Lineup. Dan Patrick is up next. Join us tonight at 7 o'clock for the official draft watch party from the Rock at Lock and Terror here on Ticket 760. We'll hear from y'all then. Good night, everybody.
This is San Antonio FC Insider, brought to you by Toyota.
San Antonio FC has played 5 of their last 6 games on the road, and they'll put the rubber to the road once again tomorrow as they head to Colorado Springs to take on the Switchbacks. The last time SAFC played Colorado Springs, it was quite a game, with both teams putting up 3 goals apiece. Jorge Hernandez earned 2 goals, while Alex Crognali earned 1. Crognali was unavailable for Lexington, so it's really unsure if he'll be available for the game on Wednesday. SAFC sits atop the table in the West, while Colorado Springs sits in the number 11 spot. That's today's SAFC Insider. I'm Katie Goodman.
At Toyota, we don't just build trucks. We build something that's meant to last. That's why the 2026 Tundra is built to tough it out and to take it easy. Built to carry tradition and to make new ones. Built stronger, built louder, built here. The 2026 Toyota Tundra. Built in Texas, driven everywhere. Test drive at your local Toyota dealer or visit Toyota.com today. Toyota, let's go places. Feature availability differs based on trim. See Toyota.com for details.
It's